But it's nice to have Serie A back.
There was Are you extra happy today,
I also enjoyed
Are you extra happy from what happened at the Serie A at the weekend?
There was a part of me after Napoli that was really broken. Because obviously there was a round of fixtures on Thursday. Not all of the games were played. We'll discuss that a little bit later. But I was a little bit dismayed at that performance. And there was a part of me that was like, you know what? I'm just going to come to terms with life. And this is what Juventus are. And I have to just be okay with it, you know? And there is a part of me sometimes that I told you I go in and out with football. I just sort of become a journalist and stop being a fan. And then that game happened against Roma. And up until the 70th minute, I was like, what a stupid team. Juventus are just ridiculous. Like they're just ridiculous. And then bam, like everything that I had stopped feeling, I started to feel all over again. And it was just, it was crazy. I mean, I was rocking back and forth in the final minutes going, please hold on, please hold on, please hold on. You know, I was impressed with players I never thought I'd be impressed with. I was disappointed with players I never thought I'd be disappointed with. I was shouting at Mourinho, even though I was happy that he was losing, you know, but I had so much in my head that was just running, thinking, what's happened to Roma? Like, wow, from Juve, should Allegri always be on the sidelines? Is this Landucci or Allegri? You know? So a bunch of things. But actually, I just thought about something, Nicky. Before anything, guys, I want you to all know that we have started a Patreon for Chronicles Tifosi to support us on an ongoing basis. And that's patreon.com/Serie A Chronicles. I should have probably said that before.
Sorry, that's my fault. I got you talking about the game. I pushed you onto it before you were ready. It's my fault.
Also, I was just so excited. And the mention of Juventus got me talking all again.
It's hard not to be excited about this game. Like, I'm not a Juventus fan. I'm not a Roma fan. But this game was just madness. Like, I don't think it's the game that you would point to and sort of want to be like, hey, like, here's the case for how sort of strong a league Serie A is. It's not the one which you point to and say, this is where the best teams play. Because, frankly, there was a lot of bad football in there as well. But it was just edge of your seat drama and madness in a way that is hard to even put into words. Like I've written a column about it for The Guardian, as always. I write a column for The Guardian on Mondays. But I was sort of looking at the papers this morning first, and I was reading, I think it was Corriere dello Sport was saying, was this a remontada? Was this a comeback, or was this a collapse? And I was thinking,
that's a good question.
And we can ask it, but those words for me don't cover it, right? Because it's more than that. It's not a collapse or a comeback. It's a melodrama. It's a saga. This was an epic drama of football. It was ridiculousness. You had
a Greek tragedy.
Well, you had so many elements to this, Mina. There's so many things that we can sort of talk about with this game. There's, take a step sort of back to the sort of furthest out zoom lens that you've got, and you think to yourself, 4-3 between an Allegri team and a Mourinho team. There's already a story there, right? Like, that's not what you expect for those two managers, those two teams. Then you look at the fact that Roma were 1-0 up and then 3-1 up, and you think, blimey, there's a story there. Then you look at the fact that 3 goals scored by Juventus in 7 minutes, which, as our producer Simon pointed out just before he came on, it's about 3 minutes or more of VAR talk in that time. So it's about 4 minutes of actual football. Then you look at the fact that you've got Lorenzo Pellegrini scoring an amazing free kick with Francesco Totti in the stand, and you've got this moment of captain to captain. Then you look at the fact that you've got Pellegrini later missing the penalty that could save the game with a former Roma goalkeeper, Wojciech Szczesny, in goal. Then you look at the fact there's a sending off. You look at the genuinely like tragic part of the game, which is Federico Chiesa suffering a cruciate ligament tear. There's so many stories in this one game of football that it's unreal. Like, I don't even know how you try to explain what happened in 90 minutes at the Stadio Olimpico.
You see, people can talk to me about all the different leagues in the world. Oh, this is the best football. No, there is nothing more entertaining. Like, frankly speaking, there's just nothing more entertaining than Serie A. Because you know what's impossible is I do a betting show sometimes. And if there's one thing that you know, is that Juventus rarely score more than a goal. Yeah.
Right.
And so you just have like yeah, you have like these things that you know for sure. And then the rest of it is so unpredictable. And there is so much unpredictability, like Salernitana winning against Verona. And you're thinking, wait, what?
Yeah.
Serie A is bonkers. But to see 7 games in a match, like you said, between Mourinho and Allegri, to see Juventus scoring that many goals and just really going for it, to see that kind of collapse from a team that had so much control, to see like Di Sciglio being the match winner.
Yes,
like
Di Sciglio.
You know what I mean? and it just it was a bonkers, really a bonkers match. And I don't know. I mean, I was watching this obviously as a Juventus fan up until the 70th minute. And I was like, wow, we really have fallen. I mean, like Juventus it's just a team that just doesn't know how to start again. I mean, when it falls and there's nothing there. And obviously there's a part of me that's like, come on, Dybala, do something, not just keep falling, like do something, you know, hoping that he's going to like somehow, you know, reignite the fire. And shouldn't really be all on him, you know? And you look at Juventus and you think there's no Chiesa now because he's been taken off with an injury. Obviously, we'll talk about that later, but I'm more worried about Italy without Chiesa than I am, even though Juventus is my team. But what a huge loss he is to both his club and his country. Like, it is tragic beyond tragic that he's been diagnosed with a cruciate ligament injury. And there's something that happens between Roma and Juventus because we lost Zaniolo to a cruciate ligament injury in a match between these two teams. We lost Mera Demiral, if you remember as well. And now it's Chiesa. I feel like every time these two teams take each other on, something bad really happens on an injury perspective. And now I'm scared, you know?
Yeah.
But my goodness, like, you know, all of the things that you ever thought about, like, you know, cliches or this is what you can depend on this is Serie A. There's nothing there. I mean, Cagliari can win, which is just beyond me, frankly speaking. Salernitana managed to win and Juventus scored 4 goals. So if there's anything that makes your mind blow up, this is Serie A. It's the unpredictability of Serie A, and it's just fantastic.
Yeah, I think you couldn't have asked for a more dramatic sort of return from the winter break than this. I mean, the 2 rounds in a few days, I think it's a little bit mad they scheduled things like that, but what a round of what a double round as well. And let's get into like I guess the substance of this. Like you know, I think that even in the space of this 90 minutes, like I could tell you like 2 whole self-contained stories about Jose Mourinho, right? Because so Roma had, I thought, a hugely disappointing performance against Milan on Thursday. So Milan, who are missing Frank Kessie and Benacer, they're missing 3/4 of their starting defence. They've been decimated by COVID and the Cup of Nations and some injuries on top of that. And you think this is a real chance for Roma. And Roma were not really ever in that game, I think, even though they did at one point bring it back to 2-1. And then 3 days later, they're playing against Juventus. Now, this is a big game, right? Juventus are 3 points outside the Champions League places, but Roma are within striking range. So if they win, they get level with Juventus. And if I'd been asked beforehand, even though I haven't been hugely impressed with Juventus, I would have said, yeah, Juventus will win that game. I don't believe in this Roma at all. Now, you've got Mourinho. Yeah, I really would have done because I was so unimpressed with Roma against Milan. Mourinho, out of nowhere, pulls this switcheroo from the 3-man defence to the 4-man defence, mirrors Juventus, goes to a 4-2-3-1. Landucci, who was on the bench for Juventus this game because Allegri was serving touchdown man, actually admitted in his press conference, we didn't see that coming. We prepared for a 3-man defence. They came at this with this 4-man defence. It was different. And like individually, some of the changes that Mourinho made, the players didn't actually work out that great. Like he threw Maitland-Niles straight into the team who'd arrived from Arsenal on loan like 2 days before. He put Cristante back into the midfield. And then both of those players are at fault on Juventus' first goal, right? Like Maitland-Niles gets beaten by Chiesa and Cristante is just ball watching. He should be tracking Dybala, who ends up having all the time in the world to do a Dybala type of goal. But despite that, tactically, I felt like Mourinho won this for like 60, 70 minutes. I felt like Roma were in control of the game. I thought that Cristante and Veretout did, in fact, by adding an extra sort of element into the midfield. They did have quite a lot of control in the middle of the park. They did keep the ball away from Bentancur and Locatelli when that was the partnership for Juventus. I thought Mourinho had actually reminded us, oh yeah, like he can do this. He can change his tactics. He can get things right. And then conversely, when the game starts getting away from them, which comes to that Morata substitution, which we can also talk about in a minute, but like there was nothing, there was no answer. And then at the end of the game, you have Mourinho being what for me, and look, I know whenever we criticize Mourinho, someone wants to come at us and fine, like disagree with me, guys, but just do it respectfully and it's okay. But I really felt like his post-match comments, there was a bit where he said, oh, it's really hurting my heart because I'm not used to working with a club of this profile, and this is just our level, and I want the players to follow me and come up to my level rather than dragging me down to their level, basically. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, how is that? How is that the message to send to your players? You're dragging me down. Like, you've got to be as great as I am. Your results aren't great. You've lost 9 games. Like, I think we saw some great Mourinho in this game. And then for me afterwards, some terrible Mourinho.
So here's the thing. I mean, Milan for me was such a disappointment. Like, we're talking about Milan side that's really been struggling to win matches, that haven't really been showing the best of themselves towards the end of 2021. They always start off beautifully, and then at some point the wheels start to come off. And you look and they don't have Tomori, they don't have Cagliari, they're playing with Gabbia at the back, they're playing with Kalulu as a centre-back. There's no Calabria, there are so many people missing, Benacer, Kessie, whoever you like you mentioned, Giroud up top, not Ibrahimovic initially. And it was like Roma just got it so wrong. And you just felt like Verratti was just on his own, trying to overcome like so much, overwhelming play by Milan that had such a clear tactical identity and knew at every stage of the match what to do. I mean, I did think that they sort of went into safe mode a little bit too early in the second half, but this was an example of Mourinho once again, and I think he showed this at United, and I think he showed this at Tottenham, not quite understanding how to achieve balance in his midfield, because that midfield was so overrun. And it was very, very disappointing that he only chose to bring on Cristante towards the end and sort of stem the flow and stop the madness. And it's too late by then, right? Then you feel like, okay, he got it right against Juventus. I mean, this is a very bad Juventus, let's be honest. Yeah. But it's still Juventus. And I thought, you know what? You got it right. You played with lots of energy. You focused on set plays. You hyped up the pressure as much as possible, And like you said, you changed to a 4-man defense, and it's something that they hadn't prepared, And yet the mastery, like when you look at a coach, it's not somebody who gets it right in the beginning. It's somebody who understands how to change it when the things start going wrong. And that is something that, for example, Allegri and Pioli are so good at changing and spotting things and adapting. Spalletti is very good at that. But you just know straight away that Mourinho always just starts bringing on forwards. Like, as automatically, if you're losing, let me just change the forward line and maybe I'll get a goal. It's not like he understands what the problem is here. It was great that you padded out your midfield, but the worst thing you could have done at that moment of time was to score a 3rd goal against Juventus. And it was almost like that allowed them to finally unbutton that damned risk-averse button that they've got on them and think to themselves, you know what? Forget Morata a second. We're going to put Locatelli next to Arthur and just try to regain control of our midfield. We're going to try to just push up the center of gravity, bring on a player like Morata who defends from the front, who presses and actually runs towards the ball and wants to partake in final third action, something that Moise Kean doesn't do so well. Yeah. Because he is more of, I guess, a classic reference point. And then that just changed everything. And so when you allow Juventus to take a risk, and for me, I feel like it's detrimental that you have to wait till you're 3-1 down before you finally start bringing on the right players, yeah? Because it should always have been Locatelli and Arthur next to each other. I know there have been injuries and Arthur hasn't always been available, but those two make the difference. As soon as I just don't ever see Rabiot and Bentancur, the better. Because this midfield should be Weston McKennie, and it should be the other two, because it's greater control. It's a player that can penetrate off the ball in McKennie, and it just, for me, it just works. And yes, it doesn't give you as much defensive solidity, but you needed to score goals at that point, and that's what Juventus did. They rolled the dice, and you know what? They came up trumps. But there was so much to admire about Juventus' performance, because I thought De Sciglio, he made a mistake, but he really, really came back from that mistake with Mkhitaryan, and I thought was superb. I thought Arthur was superb. I thought the substitutions were just fantastic. The attitude, the understanding that they were in the Olimpico and they were down was terrible. But I refuse to read Gazzetta and Corriere dello Sport anymore when it comes to Juventus match, because I just feel like they are way too harsh. But I did decide to read it now because I thought maybe they might be nice to Juve. They weren't. But one thing that I did read, and I'm actually going to read to you guys because I thought this was fantastic, and it was in Gazzetta, I have to say that. It said, 9th defeat in 21 games. Each time he blames a new culprit. The special ones list since the beginning of the year, he's blamed the referees, the squad, the depth, inexperience, character fragility, transfer market, but never himself. The second highest paid coach in Serie A, he's never looked to the fact that he's at fault. I mean, coming into Milan and, losing that match, he's 8 points off where Fonseca was last season. This is despite how many players he's brought in. Yeah. He's 8 points off where Fonseca was last season. If you look at the goals that they've created, last year they were 5th when it came to goals scored from open play. Only 4 teams scored more from open play than Roma. This year, they're 10th. Verona, Juventus, they've scored more from open play. What I see from Roma to me right now is a team that's very good in set pieces, very organized in one particular way, but absolutely unable to adapt to the circumstances, to change, to move the midfield around. Don't bring on Mayoral and all of these players. And I mean, I love Mayoral, don't get me wrong, but it's not about changing your forward line. Maybe what you needed is to believe more in your midfield, to try to reclaim control, add a filter there. That's your issue, but he never looks to change his midfield. Where's Eduardo Bove that everyone spoke so highly of, who's perfect off the ball? Why is Villar in his perfect rotation and circulation of the ball? I know he doesn't have the physicality, but you know what? He was tremendous against Juventus when they played in February. They lost that match, but he was tremendous. And I just feel like a lot of the time, these great players are being excluded for the fact is, Shmurodov didn't do what he's supposed to do. You bring him on for 10 minutes in a game. What do you want the guy to do? Like, he has no continuity. And you keep just changing forwards. That's not the way to arrange your team to come back in a squad that you let Juventus score 4 goals. I mean, I don't know what's worse, Bodo Glimt or this.
Yeah, I mean, it's extraordinary. On that point, I think Juventus had scored 28 goals in their first 20 games. So, it's not even 1.5 goals a game. They were the lowest scoring team in the top half of the table. There was a stat that I thought was really damning as well about Roma's start to this season, which is that this is the first time since 1988-89 that they've lost at home in the same season to Juventus and both of the Milan clubs. So that's quite a sort of a big comment. I know that they have had sort of not a great time against the bigger clubs in general recently, but it's a strange one for me, Mina, because honestly, at sort of 69 minutes, I guess, before that first goal went in, I probably would have said it's not perfect, but it's one of the best performances I've seen under Mourinho. And then the collapse was just so total in that last bit that it's extraordinary. And I do think, I know you sort of mentioned him, but I do want to just highlight fully that Morata, it doesn't, what is it? One swallow doesn't make a spring. One great performance doesn't suddenly fix everything that wasn't working for him. But Morata was very much at the centre of all 3 goals that Juventus scored. He set up the first one. It was his shot that gets blocked before Kulusevski scores the second one. And it was him who was swapping passes with McKennie before McKennie chipped the ball in for the third one. So Morata was transformative in this game. And I think while Juventus would prefer to, and really in the long run need to, still upgrade their attack. He looks the better option than Moise Kean to me for that number 9 spot. Maybe it makes more sense to do it like this though and have him coming off the bench. I don't know. I think that attack is still a problem in general. The reason Dybala, I love that Dybala goal because that Dybala goal puts me in mind of Paul Pogba described him as, I can't remember the buttons anymore because I'm not actually like a PlayStation player, but I remember Pogba called him, I think he called him like a square R2 player or something, because that's the buttons that you need to do to hit like a curling shot. And that was that shot. Like before we all talked about Lorenzo Insigne and his tiragere, that was like the trademark Dybala thing, the curling shot, and that one really beautiful to look at. It's one of those shots you watch and it's like it's going yards outside the post and it comes back. The only sort of thing that needs to be qualified with is it's astonishing how much time Roma gave him that one. And it is Cristante who lost him. Cristante should have been tracking him and just completely lost him. But look, it's a good win for Juventus. And I think especially a good win when you've got Allegri not on the sideline. Landucci, his replacement, said it took 5 or 6 years of his life, so he doesn't want to do it again. But if he was responsible for those substitutions, always a bit sort of unclear when you've got a manager in the site in the stands, and they're probably trying to get messages through some way somehow. But if Landucci ultimately was responsible for those changes, look, hats off, because he made the right ones.
Just because you brought up and I want to thank you for it. Yeah. I'm a huge fan of Morata. I have been for absolutely ages, and people don't understand why. And I think that Morata is very successful if he's played in a certain way, and he can never be your reference point. He doesn't like to be your reference point. He doesn't want to be your reference point, and he doesn't want to work alongside creative players. He wants to be next to the reference point. You bring him on a player like Carlos Tevez or Ronaldo, and he shines because he likes to be the man in between, because that's what he wants to do. He's a movement guy. He wants to partake in the action. He wants to go around and work and create space and bully and press and be the guy that delivers an assist. I feel like he enjoys that more than when he actually scores a goal. Here's the thing that I love about him. He always makes the right technical choice. When he's on the ball, he makes the right choice, but he makes it based on textbooks. It's almost like he lacks the instinct, and that's where the problem is that he goes a lot by what he's been taught rather than what he thinks might just be the right idea, So he's like, oh, okay, so when a goalkeeper's going down, then I should chip here. He doesn't think to himself, well, maybe he can swerve, or, he doesn't think on the moment. He refers back to sort of textbook ideas, which is where sometimes I think there's a problem with Morata. But alongside João Felix, alongside Dybala, I don't see the best of him. But when he's allowed to move a lot and the center of gravity is higher, then I think Morata shines, which is why he's shown a lot in Real Madrid, and I think why he's shown more fit for Juventus when there was the likes of obviously Vidal and Pogba and that type of thing, and Pjanic and Khedira, whoever you want to say. But when having Arthur and Locatelli being able to act as that reference point, and Morata can pull away and deliver an assist, that's where he's his best at. And I just wish if they just bought one more striker and sort of get rid of all the excess that there is, I think Morata, you would really see the best out of him. But making him your reference point or working alongside Moise Kean, it's not working, because I don't know about Kean, because he seemed to be very good against PSG, but for Juventus, he just doesn't seem up to the level. And another thing, I much prefer Dicilio over Alexandro, or Sandro just no longer, I feel like, does it really for Juventus. And if it's Dicilio and Pellegrini, or Cuadrado and Dicilio, I'm happy with that going forward.
Yeah, I don't want to get into a big discussion on it necessarily, because I don't have much more to say than just this broad point. But Alexandra is one of the most extraordinary cases for me of a player who I think a couple of years ago I thought was really one of the top players in his position, and now is, I don't know what's happened to him. He's a shadow. I think he's been a real problem for Juventus, honestly, lately.
Well, I mean, the good news for Roma is they've got some fairly easier fixtures coming up. So hopefully they can sort of build their momentum again and maybe do something special. Juventus obviously have Inter next, and they don't have Federico Chiesa
Supercoppa
season. Yes, it is the Supercoppa. It is indeed, and it's a title that, well, certainly they lose. It is Inter after all. I think Chiesa is a huge point, and that's going to be really difficult frankly, for Juventus to make top four without that kind of player. I mean, without Ronaldo, without Chiesa, and with Dybala probably getting injured any time now, it's going to be really scary going forward. But it is what it is, and hopefully Mancini will find a way of still getting to the World Cup without this exciting player.
Oh, I'm so worried about it.
Yeah, I'm really, really worried about it too. Because it's going to be detrimental to like my life if they don't make the World Cup.